Welcome back, everyone, to the Awful Takes podcast, episode 68. My name is Nabahi.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Sir Gator Productions.
And this is the show where we have awful takes on movies, music, and we share it with all of you over an hour-long format. So if you're joining us for the first time and you kind of saw the review that this is based about, typically in our episodic shows, we cover movie news that we find interesting, and then we jump into the review. So if you want, you can skip ahead. We have timestamps in the description. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty well.
Welcome back.
I know. I'm back again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're very excited to be back after a little bit of a break.
Yeah. It was a much needed break for me for sure.
But yeah, we're ready to jump back into it. So thank you guys for joining us. Quick shout out. We hit 200 subscribers, which was really cool. So thank you to everyone who has been subscribing and stuff. It's just blowing my mind every time I see the channel and it's growing and stuff. So again, thank you all, everyone who's supporting us.
Yeah, glad you guys connect with it. Glad it's sticking with y'all.
Yeah, really though. All right. We got a bit of interesting movie news. One of the ones that I know I wanted to mention in the past couple of weeks that I heard about is the duo that made Final Destination Bloodlines, which I believe came out last year.
Yeah, exactly last year.
I didn't get the chance to check it out. I still want to check it out. I know it's on streaming. So I can't speak to the quality of that movie, but the duo who I believe wrote that movie are now writing a script for a video game series called Metal Gear Solid, which for those of you who don't know, it's a very popular game that has been around for over 20 years and they've had sequels and stuff like that. And obviously the famous video game director Hideo Kojima was responsible for this whole series and everything. So this is like a big property. And if you've ever seen the main character Snake, I mean, you like literally he's iconic. Like if you see him,
he's in Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, he's in Smash Bros. And a new game I've been playing, he's in Rainbow Six Siege. And it's just like, really? Whoa, yeah, it's so strange. But they're developing a script, I guess, for this Metal Gear Solid movie that they want to make. Which to me sounds interesting. It's going to be made at Sony.
That's a choice.
Yeah, that is a choice. I need to see this Final Destination Bloodlines because to me that just sounds like out of nowhere. You know, it just doesn't really. I don't know. I guess maybe they have a hidden passion for this game series.
I guess, yeah. I saw Final Destination Bloodlines a while back, and I thought it was good. Weird to kind of say it's a fun, enjoyable movie, considering how messed up it is at points with the horror. But it's, it was a good time. I enjoyed the movie. I will say though, I'm not really too familiar with Metal Gear Solid as like a franchise and everything. I've never played any of the games, so I guess I'm a little bit more open to this adaptation. Especially because I did enjoy kind of the writing in Final Destination Bloodlines. It was a little bit more on the kind of goofy meta side. So I'm kind of a little intrigued to see what their spin will be on this video game franchise and everything and see what kind of, considering it's so different because obviously it's horror, to see like what their take on an action film would be, honestly.
The Metal Gear Solid series is one that I definitely want to get more into. I remember a friend loaned me Metal Gear Solid 4 on the PlayStation 3, and it was really cool. Nice. But I think that was the only entry I played. I remember when 5 was coming out, and it was this big deal, and I really wanted to play it, but I just never did. And then obviously I was kind of following the news shortly after that when Hideo Kojima left that series and everything. Yep. Yeah. And that was like a big deal when you have like your creative director and stuff kind of, jump off a project. So I guess this kind of brings into my head of where we are now, very much so that I know we've covered in this show quite a bit, is the adaptations going on with video games.
Yeah, it was like a joke for the longest time. You had Uwe Boll fighting movie critics. And now it's like this big thing now. I think really it's like ever since Sonic the Hedgehog came out, it's like it's just been this big jumping off point for like a bunch of franchises now.
We really, I think, are in the beginning of seeing, just properties getting adapted. I honestly, like, I've heard someone say like, these are the new comic book movies. And I'm like, but I don't think we're quite there yet. However,
it's getting there.
We could definitely be there in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Following, a couple successes. I mean, obviously Mario Galaxy just came out a couple of weeks ago, so yeah, this thing is growing. There are so many things that me as a kid, especially loving video games as much as I did, I never thought I would see these adaptations, yet here we are. We see, so many properties that are getting adapted, which to me is really cool as a video game fan. And it's cool to see people get into this stuff. Like I always mention, same thing with comic book movies is, I love those stories. I love those properties. However, I understand that the medium that it's in isn't necessarily everyone's cup of tea. Yeah. Yep. And if this provides a chance for some of my friends who aren't necessarily into video games or comics to somewhat understand how I felt playing those games or reading those books, that's a great thing. And I love that a lot. And I love it to where, who knows, maybe that could be their reason as to, I want to try playing a game or I want to try reading a comic book. I just love that. And I think it just does nothing but elevate, the fandom and everything and gets people into things that necessarily they might not have been into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's perfect.
Which is really cool. So we'll definitely be following this project. More news that comes out. Quite a pairing, honestly.
Yeah, it's quite the choice. I would never guess those two. So yeah, that's cool. Cool to see him get more work.
Another bit of movie news that I find interesting. A couple months ago, we covered Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which was made by J.J. Abrams, which at the time was obviously the peak of where J.J. Abrams was.
Yeah. Crazy that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Too.
And it was crazy to see his rise up to that, like I remember seeing his first movie, Mission Impossible 3 in theaters.
Oh, nice.
I remember when Lost was coming out, that was a big deal. And then his Star Trek series, so it was crazy to see this upward trend. And then out of nowhere, he gets Star Wars. And it was like, dude, this guy is becoming like the biggest name right now in Hollywood. Yeah, and I remember even seeing his small film Super 8 that came out in theaters too.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just crazy to see that upward trend. However, since then, and shortly after the rise of Skywalker, I don't really feel like he's done much. And I don't really feel like he's
more on the producing side, I guess. Yeah.
And he has his own production company called Bad Robot. And I feel like they haven't done much. And I remember a couple of years ago, they signed a deal thing. They were given like $250 million to like produce projects and stuff.
Wow.
And nothing ever came out from that.
Where'd all that money go?
Which I find very strange. And now we're hearing in the news that Bad Robot is actually shutting down one of its studios, I think either here in the US or in England or something. Mm-hmm. And I found that very interesting because, again, at the time, 10 years ago, Bad Robot was like, you would see their names pop up in a lot of movies, a lot of different franchises and things, and just seeing J.J. Abrams' name as a whole. And it's like now I don't see his name really brought up anymore. Yeah. I don't really hear about projects that he's working on.
I think the last time was like that Cloverfield paradox when they were still trying to like tie everything that was not related to Cloverfield into Cloverfield. I think that was like 2018 or so. So it's been a bit.
It has been a bit. And to hear that they're shutting down one of their studios is just in my head. I'm just like, wow, this is kind of like a fall, J.J. Abrams.
What happened?
His whole studio.
He has Gracie Abrams. That's fine. But
that could be it. Maybe he's just giving his daughter, some time in the spotlight. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just that's where the 250 million went.
I just find it so puzzling. I'm like, this is crazy. Like this guy again at one point was probably the biggest director at the time.
Yeah.
And I just found that interesting. I thought it was worth mentioning. And like I said, I don't know what else he's attached to do.
I guess I'm not surprised though, because like you said, he hasn't been doing much for the last 7 or so years. So I guess it doesn't surprise me too much that they just shut down one of the studios and they're just like, well, we're not developing anything. We're not producing anything. No reason to have it. It's probably like a waste of money to him or something.
Yeah,
so
honestly,
that's probably, I guess, my takeaway from that.
I'm very interested to see what J.J. Abrams starts doing. If he just sticks more to producing, or if he has a movie that he's gonna make. I could see him maybe making like a smaller film, like a return to form kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that'd
maybe
be cool.
to like get his name back out there. Not that he needs to. I mean, obviously, he probably has enough money to never make another movie in his life. But I am interested to see, obviously, this guy who at one point was just so a big director, big name, see what else he has to do, or maybe he's done, Okay. All right. Next bit of movie news that I wanted to mention. Some images came out of this movie that I remember hearing about a little bit ago, but
it was kind of in this development hell, this weird kind of area between getting made and not getting made. So glad to see it finally come to fruition.
It is Brad Bird. He is making a new film, which I think now it kind of shows why he wasn't attached to Incredibles 3 is probably because of this project. Mm-hmm. It's a movie called Ray Gun. And it is this animated adult film. I think it's going to be like PG-13 or something.
Oh, cool.
And it follows like this detective and like this kind of
retro futuristic,
dystopian type thing. And honestly, the images I've seen reminds me a lot of like the game BioShock. I don't know if anyone here has ever played that game.
I haven't played it, but I know you mentioned it when we talked about Rango and that Gordon Verbinski was going to be attached to that.
That's right. Yeah. And seeing the imagery really reminds me of that, of like this kind of like futuristic city, but there's like this detective and stuff. It looks really cool from the images that were shown. Yeah. And it's nice to know that Brad Bird is working on another film. Yeah. Considering it has honestly
been a while, almost 10 years.
Yeah. And I really think he is such a great director. So it was kind of like this waiting period of like,
what are you up to?
Yeah. What else is coming along? So to see him working on like an original idea and stuff, I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Wallied, I know you're a big Brad Bird fan. So what, anything speaks out to you with these images?
It looks incredible. I love the atmosphere. Just with the few images, I love the atmosphere it has. I love the little creature design that you get to see between him and the detective and this. I'm guessing he's going to be like a big role in the movie. Everything about it looks really promising and exciting. Also knowing Sam Rockwell's going to be in it also has me a little bit more intrigued too, because I've loved Sam Rockwell and I think he'll do a great job with the voice acting in this movie.
Nice. Overall, it's just a project that now that's going to be on my radar, and hopefully we can see a trailer or some type of footage soon.
Yeah. Only thing that has me a little is that it's going to be just kind of straight to Netflix, unfortunately.
That's true.
But I'm still excited to see it nonetheless.
Exactly. I think it's one of those things where I want to see projects from people. And I know now I don't want people to be under like strenuous
time constraints,
workloads. So if he has to take his time with it, that's cool. However, I have these directors that I really enjoy. And like I always say, it's such a joy when you find out they're coming out with another movie.
Exactly.
And it's like, I want more of that.
Yeah.
I need to stop.
No, it's always cool to see like what new thing do they have up their sleeve.
Exactly.
So no, I'm the same with that.
All right. That's it for movie news that we had. So yeah, what are we talking about today?
All right. Today we're talking about our second Park Chan-wook film on the podcast. I'm actually really excited to get into it. So today we're talking about Decision to Leave. It is from 2022. And before I say anything else about it, I just recommend you guys to go and check out the film for yourselves, because we're going to be getting into heavy spoilers for this film. So if you don't know anything about it, you haven't seen a trailer or clip or anything, that is the way to see it. Like a lot of Park Chan-wook's films though, honestly. So if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. And if you somehow remember that this review exists, awesome, cool. But more importantly, just go and watch the movie. A general plot idea of what this movie is about a detective who is investigating this murder that happened on a mountain. And let's just say he gets almost forms this romantic relationship of sorts with the main suspect of the film. Her name is Song Rae. So that's the general idea of the film and everything. And this was one of the last films of Park Chan-wook's I saw. I think this was the last one I saw before seeing his newest film, No Other Choice. And I remember when I first saw it, it blew me away, and it's a very overwhelming watch, I will say, on like a first viewing. So because they throw so much at you and everything, but with that, you're still invested in this investigation. You're still invested in this relationship between this detective and suspect. And I was surprised how far they took it too. Especially like there's a lot of moments where I was like, wait, what the hell?
Yeah.
And the best way I can really describe my experience with it personally is that it feels like a rabbit hole. And as you're watching the film, it's like you're just going down this rabbit hole farther and farther, and you can't come back from it. Is how I would perfectly describe my experience with it. So rewatching this film, I gotta say, I loved it even more. There's a lot more details I really picked up on a lot more that I didn't on a first viewing. And there's so much within the dialogue, within even just the cinematography, within just even little quirky character traits that these characters have, like a lot of Park Chan-wook's movies usually do. And so, yeah, I'm excited to get into it and talk about like my favorite moments, my favorite aspects about the film, and just kind of try to at least give my little theories on like a lot of the plot and everything, and a lot of even just the suspect in this film. So Nabahi, had you heard of this film before I told you about it? And then, of course, what'd you think?
I had not heard of this film. So this is one that I think probably for a lot of people went under the radar at the time. Yeah, I had never heard of this movie.
Okay.
So it was quite the thing to sit down and press play. And, you know, that's just one of those things when you watch movies. It's just sometimes you put on something that you've never heard of, you have no attachment to. Obviously, for me, I had some attachment hearing the director and everything. So obviously there was a lot of anticipation, but yeah, pressing play and just getting taken for this ride and everything. And like Wallied says, there's a lot in this movie, you know, and not in terms of like things being outright said or stuff, but visually there's a lot in this movie. Character wise, there's a lot in this movie, you know. There are dynamics here at play that really just become so enthralling throughout this movie. And it's like something that I feel like on paper, if someone were to tell me, I'd be like, that sounds interesting, but I wouldn't be like, oh, I need to see that, you know?
Yeah.
However, when you let it play out and you watch it, it really does become like this over encompassing kind of thought provoking film, you know, of just like, what is going to happen? Wow. These characters are so interesting. They're so different yet similar. They have this crazy dynamic, which just is so entertaining. But yeah, I really walked away enjoying this movie a lot. And it is one that I think I could benefit from by rewatching.
Definitely, for sure. I will say on a first watch, you could obviously get some things, but I will say this is one of those films where I think the film is a lot better on a rewatch because you're able to kind of like piece more things together.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I love a lot with the film is that it really just like throws you into like the murder, like immediately. Yeah. In like the first 5 minutes, I was like, wait, hold up, what? But right away, I love just the setup of this whole murder and everything. And I even love like him trying to investigate like what happened, how he even jumped off the cliff and everything. I like that he has this like little sidekick there and he like climbs up the mountain with them.
Oh yeah, that was great.
That was one of my favorite things with the first half is I loved a lot of those like sense of relief comedic moments throughout, especially with his sidekick, like whether it was like him climbing the mountain or he has to go and investigate the grandma, the sidekick, and the grandma keeps telling him like the same thing, like, oh, I love this song, The Mist. Yeah. Don't you love this song? Or I like the little joke that the grandma has. She's like, Well, you see, Songray doesn't cut the apples like that, and you just get like a shot of like the apples, and they're all just like cut poorly. And right away, too, like the other thing I really love also is a lot of the interrogation scenes throughout the film. I like that the first half really focuses on like this detective and Songray, and I love how they're filmed too. They're filmed in a very interesting way. Like you'll get certain shots of where it's like you see Songray on like the TV, and then you see like the detective and like, you know, the mirror shot, like kind of outside perspective. I've never seen interrogation scenes filmed like that before, but it kind of leaves you with like this interesting outsider perspective of like, you don't really know who she is. You don't know exactly what her intentions are. And like the detective, you're also like trying to kind of figure out like, okay, what's going through her head. Even at the beginning when she's like, oh, well, I speak Mandarin. And then like all of a sudden she's speaking like fluent Korean, you know? So it's like, how much is she letting on, you know? And that's kind of what I mean when I say like this film is kind of like a spoiler of sorts, because it's like, well, you know, it's her. And so now you're just trying to figure out how she's doing all of this and how she's kind of planning out all of these murders and how she's manipulating the situation of sorts. So how did you at least take that character?
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like, obviously the fingers point towards this person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it is kind of like that discovery, you know, throughout the story of just like, well, okay, so how did this happen? You know? And it's so funny because it's like everything points to her, and there's no other possible, I mean, other than that possibly this guy just accidentally fell or suicide. Even with like the YouTube video, you see the sidekick watching, which is kind of a hilarious little foreshadowing moment. But you don't really see any of the film dedicated towards that as a possibility, you know? So it is almost like this discovery of, okay, well, she's not fully giving everything. Where you feel like in moments there are things that are being held back. There's just a lot of unraveling of her character, you know, which I really enjoyed. That's part of what intrigued me so much to their relationship. And it's almost like you see a different side of him too when he's with her, you know, like you mentioned in the interrogation scene. You really get the feeling that these two are very similar, you know? Obviously there are differences between them, but it's almost done subconsciously as well, you know, like in that interrogation scene, they're like mirroring each other to like a T. And they're like eating the same, you know, it's just like, huh, wow, this is interesting. And there's just a part of it too, where it's like, it's hard to explain. Like it really is like when you're just watching it, it's like this subconscious feeling you get of like, okay, like there's something going on here, you know? Which is just really, really entertaining. But I really did like that with her character of almost like I said, like a discovery of more things about her, who she is, what the motives are and everything.
It's like this interesting subversion of like that femme fatale like trope you see in like crime films a lot of the time, just pushed to like such an extreme of where it's like, oh wow, it's almost like a deconstruction of sorts at points.
And it was refreshing to see kind of like a mystery, you know, crime story that doesn't have an expansive array of suspects, you know? It really is just this one person.
I know, and that's the crazy thing about it. It still keeps you on your toes somehow.
That's crazy. But yeah, overall, like her character works really, really well in this movie.
For sure. And then the detective too, like I love right away, like they set up his character so quickly in this film. It's like right away you see like he is such a troubled person. You know, he's doing these stakeouts at the beginning before the investigation. He's literally like falling asleep on the road, you know, and I take his character, at least from my takeaway from the second viewing, was that this is somebody who is so passionate about their job. This is like pretty much their whole life, because you see like how his relationship with his wife is. He's really doesn't have much. He really is just like married to the job, you know. It's that kind of saying of like somebody who's just so lost into their work that like without their work, they would be like nothing else. And that's why I find this relationship between him and the suspect so fascinating. Cause it's like, it's almost like he's living for this like suspect. Like he's almost, it's like the only thing that's like exciting to him of sorts. And it's this kind of messed up romantic kind of way of looking at it, like a suspect, you know?
Yeah. And it really is. It's like even the prolonging of the investigation, it's like, outside of this, they have no reason to really interact. So in this investigation, it's almost like that's their connection. You know?
Yeah.
Yet they're so similar. But they prolong this investigation and everything is almost like means to keep seeing each other, means to keep, interacting and everything.
It's almost like an excuse of sorts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think like, even when they're interacting, they're not doing anything like crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're literally just like making food or something. And yet you're so intrigued and you're so like, wait, like, I don't know. There was just like again, like there's a subconscious layer to this film to where I'm just like, I'm so invested and I'm so enthralled by what's going on. Yet there's nothing outright interesting actually happening.
Yeah. I think it plays more into like the absurdity too of like somebody who's like sort of having an affair, but also not.
Yeah.
Or even I like one of my favorite moments, the moment where Sangre is like singing this like lullaby to the detective, because the detective, obviously he has like really bad insomnia. Yeah. And I love how like the lighting changes and everything. And it like really changes his like perspective. And it puts you in this, at least for me, it put me in this like trance of sorts. And it's like, it shows you like she's even more like manipulating him and the situation going on.
Yeah. There are a lot of moments in this movie where you really are questioning her motives and everything. And it's like seeing the things that she does. You're just like, she's manipulating. She's trying to get, the best out of this relationship and everything. Yeah. And it's just like, it's crazy. It's like this character really feels super unique to this film,
Yeah. Or even like at the beginning, like when he's like staking out like her house and everything, you see, I think that's also why I think these two are like very similar too. Cause it's like outside of like this whole investigation, she is also just like, she doesn't have much in her life. She literally eats ice cream. Yeah. She literally watches this like K-drama and then sleeps uncomfortably on like the couch, and it's like, to me, it's like somebody going through like a depression of sorts. And this detective is like the one exciting thing in her life, or even at the beginning, like she's like taking pictures of him, like as he's sleeping in his car. Cause obviously he's like staking out and everything. And you just barely see him open his eyes and he's like, doesn't even realize it till later that like she was taking pictures of him. Yeah. And then what the crazy thing too is like, that's one of my favorite aspects with the middle portion is I love that they expand on the relationship even farther. Like you said, with them cooking, with the lullaby sequence, I love that there's a lot of time to really see how far they can take this. And even the moments where she like takes all the pictures down from like past investigations and she burns them on the stove, which is crazy to do, by the way. You see that like the relationship gets to like that extreme of like, all right, now it's getting like very serious. Now it's like, there's no coming back from it at this point. Yeah. And the other thing too is like, even with like the detective's marriage, I think one of the funnier aspects is that the only thing that they can relate to is like, she just keeps giving statistics on like everything. She's she's all 50% of marriages do this, or pomegranates are actually really good for your health, and it's like, it's a funny juxtaposition from that. And then you're seeing like this suspect and it's like, oh, this is more of like, this is a more like passionate kind of love, a messed up passionate love, but it's definitely there.
It draws into mind like those stories of obviously forbidden love and everything, but it's crazy in this movie. Like I said, watching these two interact, you really do get the feeling that these two belong together.
Yeah, they're perfect for each other.
They're perfect for each other, and it's like, shouldn't they be together? And yet you're just like, wait, she's a suspect in this murder, and it's just like, wow, that really is interesting.
I mean, he even buys her sushi. He buys her this like expensive sushi box set when they're doing the interrogation and everything. And even the sidekick he's all, why did you buy her that expensive box sushi?
They both have almost that aspect of being the perfect person for each other, you know, kind of like Wallied mentioned in that scene where she's taking down the pictures. She's trying to help him, you know, she's trying to help him get to sleep and everything, this and this. And it's almost like these people, their lives might be better if they were together, you know?
Or even the thing that shocked me too is like when she reveals that like there's the 4 fentanyl pills in that jar. Like I was like, wow, she really does like trust this detective so much to a point that she would reveal something like that. Or even the reveal that's crazy to me is like where she kills her mom. You know, obviously you get the sequence and you see, but once they showcase like the context of it, it's like, I can see why maybe the mom wished that, but also it's really sad. And it's like, it's very tragic at the same time. And yet he still loves her even through that, which is insane to me. And again, just shows you the character of that he loves this like forbidden love of sorts. One thing I will say that really shocked me though, is the time jump. So it time jumps to like, I think like 13 months later. And obviously it's like they're not together anymore. The investigation is pretty much quieted down and everything. And I love the interaction. Obviously it's like the detective and his, you know, his actual wife. And then he sees the girl at like this market and you see her side. Like obviously she's going through this like abusive quote unquote relationship. And obviously she's trying to frame him for like murder or something, which plays later on, I think really greatly. I'll get into that. But their interaction for like the first time in like a year was like awkward, but also hilarious and also really sad at the same time. It was just like this blending of like emotions for me of like, damn, that kind of sucks. And also very awkward. Your wife is like right there and her other guys. Guy's right there. And it's funny too, because like the wife and the other husband are just like talking to each other. And then they just have this like just staring contest too. And that for me is like where it's like, oh, okay. It's like it re-blossoms again. And it's like, it's one of those things of where like, it's like this person's had a big impact on you. And it's like, you know, you don't see them for a long time, but after you're seeing them for like a year later, it's like that fire is surprisingly still there. Yeah.
That was a moment that surprised me, like them seeing each other again.
Reuniting of sorts.
Yeah. And it also, it's a nice jump because it's like you see the detective almost like trying to fix his life outside of that, you know. He moves back with his wife and everything. He goes to like the doctor to help him sleep and everything. So it's almost like this violent crash back into this you know, forbidden
scandalous
relationship. Which is just super interesting. And then like Wallied mentioned, seeing their significant others talking to each other and they're just giving each other this stare is just like, wow, this is very surprising, you know? Yeah. And definitely. I feel that way with a lot of this movie. It's like at multiple points, I feel like the story could end, yet it keeps going and it finds a new layer to add to the movie, some twist to add, you know, just to make it that much more interesting.
Yeah, and it makes for a fun watch, and it just really like keeps surprising you. Even on the second watch, I was still like surprised by different other aspects and elements to it, or even the way it like reveals like info of like, you know, whether it's through like taking pictures at the beginning, and it's like it's such like a blink it and you'll miss it detail, and it's like, oh, it comes back into play later on, like, you know, they're taking pictures of like his wedding ring, and you know, and she's looking at his wedding ring, and she's like, oh, how can I manipulate that situation, which I didn't even notice until rewatching. I was like, oh damn, they really like, it's crazy how much you can miss a detail like that in this film. And then obviously you get the other murder that happens too, and like this, it's like this really disturbing image of like this guy in like a pool, and the pool is like empty and everything, and he's all like grayed and everything, and you see, well, obviously the way they revealed that info and everything was crazy too. And obviously she tries, you know, like I mentioned earlier, she's with this significant other and she's like pretty much framing him for the whole murder and everything.
That was something that I gotta say, I should have been expecting it, but I wasn't.
Exactly. It leaves you speechless. Yeah, exactly.
Seeing like just that quick jump of he's with his wife, she's in the tub, he's like doing the thing the doctor said, doing like a foot bath.
Yeah.
And you see that call go out on the phone, and you see that it was like the husband calling, and it was just like, wait a minute. And then it just jumps and he's dead. And I was just like, oh God. And then I love the buildup of him investigating the crime scene and everything, and just seeing the face, recognizing who it is, and then obviously seeing the wife.
Yeah. And that picture of the wife as she's like throwing her phone.
Yeah.
It's like such a striking image, and it just like, it's like burned into your memory afterwards.
And it really, again, like I said, story could end at multiple points, yet it just keeps going. And like when that new murder happened, it was just like, dang, they're really taking this to another level.
It's like a curveball. Yeah. They just throw a curveball at you with that.
It was awesome.
Well, honestly, the last interaction they have before, obviously, the ending is like crazy too, where like she finally kisses him. Mm-hmm. And this is more of like, all right, he's at this point now where it's like, it's now or nothing at this point. And it's also just kind of like a shocking scene too. You know, he's walking like at night. It's like super snowy and everything. Yeah. And this last interaction is just like you said, it's like it could end right here, honestly, and it'd be like a crazy ending, but it still goes. And I like that the scene after is like the wife leaving him, and of course the detective says like a ridiculous line that was like foreshadowed earlier on, where he's all, "Oh, we could have sex at any time, and you'll still be good, right?" And she just like walks away. She just walks off. Yeah. Was like a sad foreshadowing of sorts, but also like a karma moment of like, well, it was bound to happen eventually.
Exactly.
And this ending is just, still leaves me speechless. And it's like there's this crazy, not even crazy, it's just this car chase between the two of them. Mm-hmm. And she goes to this like beach and she digs like a hole for herself near like where the waves could like bury her in the water. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how long she was staying there for. Yeah. But she must have been staying there for a while. He's trying to chase her because now he finally comes to the realization that I think he had already known beforehand that she has done it. What I see it is like she's won. Yeah. She's basically got everything she wanted. She basically destroyed this detective's life. Yeah. She destroyed his marriage, and she doesn't really have anything else to live for. Mm-hmm. And she probably sees the detective as like, well, it's a love I don't think I could ever have. Like I don't want to kill this person like I did my other however many husbands she's killed, you know? Yeah. And I guess I see it as like a tragedy because like the detective, like that was all he was living for anyways. Like he had nothing else aside from this lady. Yeah. And that was what was keeping him going. It's a lot how I see like certain supervillains in like certain stories of like, that's the reason why they keep doing the thing they do. For them, it's like a good sense of like validation that they get from the superhero, or it's what like keeps them going and going and going, you know? And so with her pretty much dying, or her, you know, he thinks that she's missing. Yeah. It's gone.
It is very interesting to watch that play out and see that, like I said earlier, like these two are clearly like made for each other at some point, you know, and to see that they can't be together, you know, and it is cemented by this act of suicide, you know, and it's just like, wow, like that. And then not even then, just to know that he can't even have the finality in knowing that she died, you know, is crazy to think about. Because for him, it's almost like that torment is still going to be there in his head of like,
it's haunting him for the rest of his life.
Is she alive? Where did she go? You know, things like that. And it literally, the answer is right under his feet.
I know that's funny.
Crazy. And then obviously all the symbolism of like the water, the mountains and everything. Yeah. I found really, really interesting.
I would say my takeaway from it, I still am trying to figure it out myself, but I guess I will say with the way I see with the ocean and sea and everything, because obviously she has a big connection to it. As I see it as like, she's everywhere, like water. She's just all over the place, which maybe is like a basic surface level way of thinking about it. But at least that's how I took it. And I guess the mountain is more like he's like the obstacle, or the obstacles that keep getting in like their relationship, or keep getting in the way of other things.
Yeah. I think honestly, you could be right. I feel like also with the mountain, everything is just like there's a stableness there. You know, there's like a structure, you know, the mountains don't change. The mountains don't falter or move. You know, there's something that they're there to uphold you and stuff. And then the water obviously is the other side of that. But
it's free flowing.
Free flowing doesn't have a definite form, you know? So I think that is what makes it really interesting is, like I said, these two feel really similar. They feel the same, yet there's something that is
like
just
holding them back.
Yeah. That symbolism is great. And obviously I think, that whole scene of her digging and everything, it's crazy to see. It's like a mountain is built and then it's taken away by the water. You know? It's like
she's one with the water.
Obviously kind of like him, you know, he's not the same after that. You know?
Of course. Yeah. Who would be?
Which is really crazy. And like I said, throughout this whole kind of climactic ending, I was just like, didn't know where it was going to leave off.
I know, neither did I, you know,
great,
and it leaves you with this sense of like sadness at the end. And it's like, whoa, at least for me, I was sitting there like 5 minutes after, like, whoa, what did I just watch?
It was great though.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you had a great time with this. One more aspect I wanted to mention too real quick was, it's not too big of an aspect, but I liked the moments where you see like the mold throughout the house and everything. I guess I took that. It's funny how they show it at the beginning when he's like having sex and he's just looking at this like moldy like side of like the wall. And I guess I took it, and then it's funny because that's like a funny transition of like where you see the mold and it's like on the x-ray and everything. I took the mold as like, it's like a disease that just keeps growing and growing. The disease being this like relationship he's having with the suspect. And it's just like growing. The mold is just growing more and more, and he's not fixing anything in his life. He's making the problems become bigger and bigger than they need to be. But yeah, that was another like little detail I picked up on with this rewatch. But yeah, overall, this is a crazy. I mean, I know I've said that so many times throughout this review, but this is a very great crime mystery drama film from Park Chan-wook, and one that I felt like was very underappreciated, and I felt like went under the radar. Unfortunately, I didn't hear too many people talking about it when it came out, and I was surprised too, considering it is Park Chan-wook and everything. But yeah, this is easily like one of my favorite crime films I've seen. Even on a rewatch, I think it gets better, and there's so much to pick up from. There's so much to take away your own like different interpretations with the relationships, with the symbolism of the mountains and the waves and everything. And there's just great characters, great story that for me just keeps me on the edge of my seat and keeps me on my toes, even with like the small groundedness of everything, with obviously it only being one suspect, and you're seeing how far they can take that. And with that, of course, like a lot of Park Chan-wook's films, it's very fast paced. There's a lot of great editing choices. Like there's so many great transitions throughout this film that I'm just still like blown away by. Like there's one where he's doing a stakeout at the beginning and he's seeing Song Rae at her job, and it transitions to him like in the house with her, but it's like in his imagination. And I was like, that is like one of the coolest transitions I've seen in a while. The crazy thing is too, is that it's 2 hours and 20 minutes and not once do you surprisingly feel the runtime at all. Like it is paced so surprisingly well. I will say maybe my only complaint is that maybe there was like a few things I wish were a little bit more expanded upon, like maybe the relationship with his wife. I would have liked maybe like a few more scenes with before, just as like maybe like to get like enough time between the two relationships, just because I thought that was a great juxtaposition throughout. But yeah, that's really like one of my only probably my only complaint I could really think of.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like a lot of Park Chan's films, like the music choices are always great. That Mist song that's played throughout is incredible. And that ties in really well too with a lot of the themes going on in the film. And so, I think score wise for me, I'm around like a 9 out of 10, honestly. Yeah. I would say this is a film that gets better and better on a rewatch.
Yeah, it was a great watch. It's something that I definitely could see myself recommending to people. Great crime mystery film, also great romance film.
Yeah. Twisted romance film.
Yeah, twisted very. But yeah, overall, it's just something that feels very, very unique to the storyteller and everything. So watching it play out, you really can't tell where it's going to go. You know? Yeah.
Best kinds of mystery films, best kinds of crime films. So.
And I think it has a lot of subversions in it that feel earned, and they feel like, okay, there's good payoff to these, you know? And also watching, that romance build and everything, that's very entertaining. And I'm glad that they, give these characters time and everything. I will say, I echo Wallied's point. It would have been nice to see more with that wife, because there's like that whole beginning part where they're investigating the murderer and everything. And it like cuts back to the wife, and I was like, oh yeah, I feel like we haven't seen her in like 20 minutes.
She's been gone for a while, especially in the middle portion too. Like obviously she's not there all that much.
And I think I do kind of like that. I wish they would have done more of like him kind of having that kind of double life, of this investigated side and then his personal life and everything.
It's this interesting portrayal of like separating your quote unquote separating your work life from your like personal life. Guy's not very good at it, but
overall, definitely. I think I'm at a 9 out of 10, man. Nice. This was a really enjoyable watch, and something that like I said, if you haven't seen it, definitely give it time and check it out. I could definitely see a lot of people getting something out of this.
All right, what do you have for us next time?
Oh man, next episode.
How do you follow up Batman versus Superman?
Oh my god, it hit me. Okay, so when we were reviewing that film, I was like, this is the first superhero movie we're reviewing.
I know.
And I was like, that kind of sucks.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we did review Superman last year, so I guess that was our first
Technically,
one.
that was like a movie. Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
But still,
but it was kind of strange because it's like superheroes are such a big part of my life, and that was like the first one I selected. So I've been kind of going back and forth with a lot of movies. This one isn't necessarily a superhero film, but this is one that I really love. This is like one of my favorite films of all time. At one point, this was, to me, the greatest action film of all time until Mad Max Fury Road came out. I want to talk about Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
All right. Yeah. Nice.
You've seen the first one, right?
I have seen the first one.
Perfect.
I have not seen the second one, though.
Wow, that is actually crazy.
So this will be my first time watching it.
Yeah, I apologize, guys. We're not going to be watching the first one. I kind of toyed with the idea of doing like a double review. However, that video could be 3 hours long.
We'll be here for a while for doing that.
Exactly. And I feel like for me to talk about the first one and everything, while I do love it and everything, this second one for me just is on a whole nother level. And it's kind of funny because I saw the second one on its own.
Really?
And I was fine. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And obviously it intrigued me to eventually watch the first one. But this is a film that was really important for me. I saw it at a really young age, probably shouldn't have.
Oh, wow.
But man, it was so cool because Terminators, I thought, were like the coolest idea in movies ever. And I was really young. Like I was like probably like first grade when I saw this movie. Oh my God. Yeah, I really shouldn't have been watching it. But I had cool parents, and all my friends at the time were talking about like Power Rangers or whatever.
You're all,
I was talking about Terminator. I was talking about him killing people. And I was talking about the T-1000 stabbing people through the eye. And this is wild. But this is a movie I really love. So if you haven't seen Terminator 2, man, definitely check it out before the next review. We'll be talking about spoilers and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm very
James Cameron's
excited.
pretty good with sequels. I've seen his Aliens. That was awesome. So
that's right.
so I'm even more excited to see his follow-up to Terminator.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, for me, this is on it. You got Mad Max Fury Road right below it. You got this movie. This movie's action is just absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And yeah, there's a lot of heart to this movie, and I'm just excited to talk about it. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Cool.
Great pick. All right. I'm excited.
All right.
Good day and good night, mates.
We'll see you on the next one.
I'll be back.